Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the founder of Snap, an AI powered behavior first dog training app, no other than Miss Emma Berumen. Welcome, Miss Emma, on our Book 101 review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. A little bit of background on me is we just have assembled a team that can help us with dog training, especially with social anxiety and leisure activity. And we started Snout, which we have an app coming out on March of 2026, and we're really excited about it.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Emma. Thank you. So today let's talk about animal behavior. So tell us why behind the action when you say observe any animal behavior from a bird singing to a dog classing its tail. What are the four fundamental questions you must ask to truly understand it?
Yes, for sure. So a lot of the animal behaviors, it depends on multiple basis. Really, it's just on the nature, on the breed of it, on the instincts, and also just like us, they also have personalities and likes and dislikes.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
definitely.
So, for example, with birds, it's an entirely different species as, say, dogs, right, or even us humans, right? But as the dogs have cohabitated with us for so long, then their behavior and their instincts are very much intertwined with us and rely on us, right? For example, a fox would run away from us because they're not used to us and they don't even know us, right? But in comparison to a dog, they tend to go on with us. Even cats, as independent as they are.
Nature versus nurture in the wild. What is the striking example of a behavior that once thought to be purely instinctual, but we know it's significantly shaped by learning and experience?
Yeah, so one of the behaviors that was believed to be an instinct was the fear of, say, fire, right?
Mhm.
Where, and again, you should always review this, right? But fire was thought to believe that a lot of animals, were instinctively afraid of fire because it was hot, because it was gonna like burn you, right? But now we know it's a learned behavior because if you've never been burned by fire, then you approach it because it's warm and you might be cold, and then you might put your hand over it, and then you get burned. And then other animals started seeing that, oh, if I get close to fire, I'm gonna get burned, right? So it's a learned behavior, not so much of an instinct, right? For example, with us humans, the only fear that we are born with is the fear of snakes and the fear of heights, which a baby instantly jerks at a snake or heights, right? But not so much maybe a spider or any other animal.
The mystery of the migration, Miss Emma. The navigational feats of migratory animals like Arctic terns to a monarch butterflies seems almost supernatural. What are the leading theories on how they perform these incredible journeys?
That's interesting you ask. I have very limited experience on animals and animal behavior as a whole, you know. So I cannot really answer that question.
Okay, so let's do to my next question about consciousness. As we learn more about animal intelligence, from tool use in crows to complex social structures in elephants, How close are we to answering the age old question: are animals conscious? And what might consciousness be like?
Yes, so again, I don't have that much experience on animal behavior. My background is in biology research and finance, so I cannot really answer that question from an expert standpoint, right? I can tell you what I think, but I don't want to sway or spread false information.
So, if you compare to biology, so what's your expertise? How you can compare with it?
So what we've learned so far is that consciousness is a very weary term, right? Because we all may identify it as very different, right? It can either be consciousness as I am because I am, right? Or it can just be say personalities, likes or dislikes, right? So, but there seems to be some level of understanding of animals, of especially mammalians, right, where they are and who they are, and some of them may have personalities. One may prefer one kind of a style of hunting, while the other one may prefer just to stare at a cliff, right, and look at the sunset, which we've seen our own animals, right, our pets and our dogs uh, do that sometimes, right, or they may prefer one human to another, right. So, but to our level of consciousness is difficult to really measure until we can actually get into an animal's head.
Okay, Miss Emma, beyond alarm calls, what are some of the most sophisticated examples of communication in the animal kingdom that hint of complex language we are only beginning to understand?
For sure, one of example is the meerkat. I believe it's we've been able to identify that they have complex languages. They're able to spread out information among themselves, and their language, as you can say it, can be very different to depending on the scenarios. If they're alarming, if they're telling anybody who's coming and what are they like and what should watch out for, you know. So another example is crows. Crows have an excellent memory, and they can recognize and tell everybody else, you know, like, oh, this human is awesome, and if you bring a gift, then they leave out water or food for you, right? Or this other human try to kick me, so you know, don't approach him, or other things like that, right?
Mhm. So, Miss Emma, tell us the role of deception. Can you share an example of tactical deception in animals where one animal intentionally manipulates the belief of another? What does these tell us about the evolution of intelligence and even theory of mind?
Yeah, for sure. So well, don't go too far, right? I'm looking at
Yes.
our own pets, you
Hmm.
know, where they can manipulate us, and they do it all the time, you know, and it's a way of surviving, which it may sound very cute for us, right? But manipulation is basically changing an outcome to your own benefit, right? Which can be ill used, like camouflage, you know, um, birds or types of fishes and do this to manipulate the people into thinking that they're not there, right? And then they can, you know, eat. But our dogs do that all the time, you know, as in like when you're eating and they give you the puppy eye, then they're like asking you and trying to manipulate you or convince you in a very beautiful and cute way of you giving in and giving them something that they want.
Yes, one form of manipulation of our pets, most especially dogs. How do young animals spend so much valuable energy on play? What vital function does frivolous behavior serve?
Yeah, so when you can see this in other animals and humans as well, or other like for example, the closest animal to dogs are wolves, right? But they use play to reinforce the hunting behaviors and the skills they need to survive, right? But since dogs are so highly domesticated, they're stuck in the playful and internal youthful mind, right? So when they play with us, it's a way of connecting with us and communicating with us, right? So it's a way of I like you, I trust you, I want to spend the time with you, and I play with you, which would be the same thing. For example, as us when we talk with another person, right? That's how they talk with us. So that's why it's something when you're bored or when you're sad or something, then your dog may bring a toy or their favorite sock and they give it to you or they may ask you to play, right? So it's a way of communicating with you of I'm thinking about you and I want to spend time with you. And that's how they get closer with us. And vice versa. That's how we also get close to them.
Yes, vice versa for sure. And what is the fascinating link between selecting for tameness in animals and the physical changes we see across many domesticated species like fluffy ears and spotted coats?
It's really funny because actually, the more domesticated an animal is, for example, it's been a study between a fox, right? That a type of fox that's been, in a way, slowly getting domesticated by us accidentally. I forget the type, but the more domesticated an animal is that has a tail, the tail begins to curl upward, right? So, for example, that fox, if you see a fox out in the wild, their tails tend to be a lot more straighter than this particular fox that tends to have it like in the outskirts of a city, scavenge for food, and they see us and they're not as afraid of us as other foxes, and this type of fox's tail tends to curl upward a little bit by little in comparison to its other closest species, right? So if you also can see that in our dogs as well, right? The more, of course, usually, right, there are exceptions, but uh, they, if your dog's tail is a little bit straighter, for example, a husky, right? Huskies hasn't been domesticated as long for, say, a Chihuahua, right, or a Pomeranian, right? So the more domesticated an animal is, especially a canine, the more curly the tail tends to be, right? And of course comes uh, selective species, right? That we tend to prefer more furry, with cuter ears, or uh, with a smudgy face, kind of like a pug, right, or a French poodle.
Interpreting our pets. What is the most common misunderstanding people have about their dogs or cats' behavior that you wish could correct, Miss Emma?
That there's a lot of information that your dog is giving you, or even your cat, or even a fish, right? But there's a
Hmm.
lot of information that they're giving you that you're just not reading because you're not used to it. So, for example, the more time a dog spends with a person, the more they learn to make facial expressions, right? But there's a lot of things going on in their body language, in their ears, in their tails, in the way that they're behaving, right? For example, a yawn in a dog may not specifically say that they're tired or that they want to go to sleep. It's more of I'm anxious and I want to go home, right? Or I don't feel safe, or there's a lot of things going on, right? For example, especially social anxiety, right? When you leave your house and your dog's ears perk up, right? And it's still right at the door, and their body tends to be very tense, and you can see a lot of white in their eyes, right? So that's a dog that's anxious, rather than a dog that just happens to be bored and you leave the house. Their ears are a lot more relaxed, their body's just a lot more floppy, and and you don't see that much of white in their eyes. So if you pay attention, your dog is telling you a lot.
Miss Emma, when is it helpful to attribute human like emotions or thoughts to animals to understand its behavior? And what does it lead us completely astray?
That's an interesting question, right? Because we all have biases, right? And the way that we view and perceive our world depends a lot on uh, who we are and when have we come from, right? And what experiences have we undergone, right? So the the correct answer to that is try to remove yourself as much as you can and try to see, for example, your pet, your dog, as an independent being from you, right? There are some times that you may come home very stressed from work, and your dog is very excited to see you, and they're jumping on you, and you interpret that as you're annoying, you're being very annoying right now. Please, remove yourself, right? Or you're like, oh my God, stop, right? But then the same scenario can happen where you just had a wonderful day at work and then you come back or work, right? Or with your friends. And then you come back and your dog is happy to see you. You're like, oh my God, look, uh, they missed me, right?
Hmm.
So it's a little difficult to take away our emotion from the dogs, right? As much as you can. But in the same way, dogs can read our emotions, but sometimes they just choose to ignore it, right? It's only when we're under extreme emotional duress that they're like, okay, so there's something going on, right?
Hmm. So, Miss Emma, as a founder of It's Not, what are your short term and long term goals?
For sure. So right now, our app is we're very excited about it. It's coming March of this coming year, right? And we're aiming to help dogs and the dog and the parents with separation anxiety and leisure activity specifically, right? So it's a training plan that's just not static. It's always moving, always learning as much as they can from you, right? So let's say that you're in milestone, I don't know, 5, right? For a couple of weeks, and then you're a little bit, stuck in it. So the app is like, okay, we see here that there's been some progress here, and then but not that much. So how about if we structure it to have a couple of practice and lessons, right? And it's also and as you're doing the training, it records you. So it asks you to record yourself doing a lesson, and it gives you real-time feedback on your technique, so that you're actually doing it right. Because we're not dog trainers, so there comes a time where you think you're doing it right, but you really aren't. And it's not just the dog training, right? It's also the it has readings and it has games associating with a lesson, so that you can learn a little bit on the background of your dog and how they think and how they learn, and remind you that you can also have fun, right? But we're not just stopping there. Version 1, version 2 is going to include a lot more trainings, a lot more things, and eventually expand ourselves to the vet system, right? Such as televet and all those things. And what's really great about our app also is that you can, in any case that you're feeling unsure about your training or whatnot, we have certified dog trainers that you can schedule a one-on-one with, and you can talk with them and ask them any kind of questions, and they're able to adjust your training plan as needed. So it's always backed by certified human expertise. It's not just not an algorithm telling you what to do.
Thank you for that goals and looking forward for more success, Miss Emma. Good luck to that goals. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a founder like you?
It's hard. It's hard, and it's a lot of. What they don't tell you is that it's an emotional roller coaster. So there's very high highs and very low lows and very little in the middle kind of things. So if you get into this, make sure you love what you're doing. because it goes like you're gonna be tested multiple times, even a day, multiple times, where you're like, why am I doing this? Should I even keep on going, right? But if you love this enough and you have the backup data that can tell you that people want this, then that should be enough.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Emma. And what would be your recommended book or books that influence your journey?
For sure, my recommended book was Mythos by Stephen Fry, which is a retelling of the Greek myths such as Sisyphus, Bellerophon, uh, Perseus, right? That yeah, again, it's those are stories that they was told a long, long time ago, and they're still um, relevant today, right? To the daily human struggle and the nature versus nurture and humans versus God, right? Gods in that sense, right? But it really inspired me into something seeing us as like from a third lens.
Well, thank you for the recommended books, Miss Emma. And what is the next big unanswered question in animal behavior that you're most excited to see solved in the coming decades?
Ooh, that's really interesting. That's very, very interesting. It's I really haven't thought about thought about that. You had me on the curve there. But the most interesting big question is what's going on inside a dog's mind. Really, like cracking the dog's language and brain, right? Because there's still a lot more things that we don't know, and whether or not they're fully conscious like we are, and we just don't know because they cannot talk our language, right?
Hmm. Okay, so before we wrap up our discussion for today, Miss Emma, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract Robot 3 in second season, and my book 1 review in fifth season too. Comedy 1 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, and movie 101 review and music 101 are in fourth season. Science 101, Sex 101 is second season, and my baby podcast Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Emma, tell us if you could leave our audience with one key insight from your work, what would forever change how they look about animal behavior?
It's that it's never just one answer. It's not it's always ever evolving, and there's the reasons why animal behaves in such a manner can be it may appear the same way, but it all depends on their experiences and where they're coming from. So it's very relative depending on the environment.
Yes, and Miss Emma Berumen. Berumen, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming snout?
Yes, for sure. Again, we're coming on March 2026, and we're very excited about it. It's about dogs. It's about anxiety and leadership activity.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Emma Berumen because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering apps like this to come. So, Miss Emma, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Modicon people, see you soon.